Hey guys, visit our Patreon. That's patreon.com/allagesofgeek.
Hey guys, this is Mufsin here from All Ages of Geek. In case you guys are also listening on audio form, we'll be having this up on the Geeking podcast as well. We are here to talk about RWBY Volume 8, which has dropped. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things, what's coming up for this upcoming season. Joining me here is Kerry Shawcross, the writer and showrunner of Volume 8.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
All things of RWBY. And we're also joining with us is the voice of RWBY herself.
Hello, thank you for having me, appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for being here. How does it feel having Volume 8 now out for everyone to see?
It's good to say, Kerry, please.
No, I mean, and I think you've got a lot to say about this too, because it's Volume 8 and Volume 9 even more so as we get to that are some of the furthest we've started pre-production ahead of airing. So it is on top of everything else going on in the world. It's surreal just of like how long ago we recorded audio, like with you, Lindsay, for chapter 1 of Volume 8 and actually sing it on screen. It's different is I guess what I would say, but good. Different, but good.
It's been bizarre looking back, and I'm sure you kind of hinged on it a little bit here, but it's just kind of crazy how the pre-production was so well planned out that we were able to kind of prepare for COVID. But at the same time, like, the team is working so hard from home to adjust during the COVID period. So I have seen people from the production team go above and beyond, and I feel like every volume they just take it like one step further, and I keep saying that, like, oh wow, you guys have really gone above and beyond. It's like, no, seriously, like I can't explain how much of a testament this is to like the dedication to this show, and how much not only just the crew but the audience, like everyone wants so badly for it to come to fruition, and they're willing to be patient, of course. Like, we don't want to have poor quality of lifestyle or anything like that, but like, I'm myself included, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need RWBY right now. So yeah, I'm glad that we can do it.
So we just jumped into episode 1. Atlas is pretty much on lockdown. Mm-hmm. And the team's pretty much split now. Like, one's focusing on trying to save whatever's left of Atlas, and the other's trying to try to stop Salem and perhaps save the rest of Remnant as well. After so long, like, being together, now they're split apart. Like, how does that factor into what we're going to be getting for the rest of Volume 8 going forward?
I think it's pretty. Trying to figure out the best way to say this. It's a pretty clear kind of delineation point for the whole season. I mean, like, you've got the obvious ones, right? We've essentially got a 3-way war going on. We've got RWBY and our kind of like our heroes as a unit. We've got Ironwood and we've got Salem, and then among those different groups, we're definitely seeing it with RWBY, and we're going to continue to see it with some of the others, where not everybody's getting along. And I think that's because just like in real life, you can have similar goals and you can think that there are different or better ways of handling them, and then you can have a goal and then realize that you need to pivot and maybe not everybody else does around you. So I think from a broader standpoint, I think this season is a lot about figuring out what is important to you and making sure that you stay true to that. But I mean, Lindsay, for y'all, I mean, like that not to get too spoiler and stuff, but I mean, like, it's I've got to imagine it feels, weird. I mean, we had Volume 4, which is definitely everybody more apart, but since then we've been back together. So I've got to imagine it felt kind of weird to kind of get everybody split back up again.
Well, there's like the physical distance, of course, and there's emotional distance where, like, I would think leaving into Volume 4, RWBY was still so emotionally connected to Yang, and was like, that was like, I mean, obviously there's a lot of other things happening here, but that was definitely a huge driving factor for her to go off on her own and like start her own journey. Whereas I would think in Volume 8, and I don't think it's spoilery to say it's in episode 1, they have this open conflict and they say, like, I don't agree with your plan. I don't agree with what's happening. And RWBY just has to say, like, okay, like you don't agree, and that's that. There we go. And so it kind of shifts into this motivation for her of, again, like you said, trusting in yourself. So there is that emotional separation between her and Yang, between her and Blake. Same with Weiss, obviously with a bigger global separation with the Atlas as a whole, and their role, you know, in the world of Remnant. But that all boils down to RWBY and Weiss as well. I mean, I don't think it's spoilery to say that like they've had conflicts in the past, not only in their upbringing, but just in their ideologies. Granted, they've both grown a lot, but that's gonna come back to the surface. It has to. So yeah.
And I like that RWBY has kind of evolved as a character, even in the voice, because like you had this kind of this young girl trying to grow up in the world of Remnant, and now it feels like she's kind of changed after all these volumes, especially when you see that in volume 8, like she's trying to, you know, kind of take charge and become more leader-like, as I would like to say. Do you feel that when you were playing the character, Lindsay? As like with volume 8, now she's becoming more of a leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I was talking to Kerry about it before. It's crazy that RWBY is a show. Like it represents our 20s for us. Like it was such a huge part of our lives, RWBY included. We talk about how as actors, there is a little piece of us in every character we play, because as an actor, you have to have that connection, that emotional connection with the character you're playing. With RWBY, it goes so much further than that. I mean, Monty asked me to play RWBY, or at least to audition for her when he was creating the character. That alone was like that, you know, creator-actor connection that you usually don't get in a lot of productions, or if you do, you're very lucky. But then on top of that, we didn't know that this show would be nearly as successful as it is. So again, like this is my entire career as a voice actor, is like RWBY and watching this grow. So as far as my connection with the character itself, like I feel like she's a huge reflection in my growth in my 20s. A lot of it is completely reflected in the storyline of like, socially and globally, we in the real world are dealing with a lot of distrust. I completely understand where RWBY is coming from that standpoint. It's hard to trust a lot of people, getting a little jaded and cynical about the world around you, and that goes into the performance. I'd say it's intentional and not, because you have that. It's kind of like a drift for anyone who's a nerd and watches Pacific Rim. I'm drifting with RWBY. Yes.
I mean, I think
understood.
It makes sense, and I think it speaks a lot to you being a very good actress, is that it's intentional, but it's also just natural and just kind of like what needed to happen. And it just kind of, I'm not saying you didn't put work in it, but it just happened. Like it was the thing. It was like over the years, it's like that's just the thing that needed to happen, and you grew with that character, and that character grew, and there is this synergy there.
I kind of like.
Also, is my video frozen?
Oh no, you're good. For me,
cool.
At least.
Great.
I'm cool. I was saying that's kind of the best thing about working with you, Kerry, especially. It's like we get the luxury of coming into the booth and working with our friends and cohorts that we've spent years together with. And a lot of other production studios, understandably, they say, okay, we have a time limit, you got to keep going. And we don't mess around too much, but we get to have some fun. So especially with performing with RWBY in these moments, like I'll come in and I go, I kind of feel like she should be like this. And Kerry's like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's great. Let's go with it. And that's kind of what I'm talking about having a feeling like it's planned, but not. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I also kind of want to talk about some of the other characters that are being more in the forefront with Volume 8, especially with Oscar. Because, now that Austin has kind of come back into the fold, how is their relationship, being more like connected now as before once Volume 8 starts, especially with episode 2, like it seems like there's still some trust issues still going around between them. So if you can...
Yeah, I definitely, I don't want to get too spoilery stuff, but with chapter 2, we have a pretty good conversation about it. I mean, to answer your question, I would say complicated. Things between them are complicated and are going to continue to be complicated. outside of being kind of anime weird soul stuff going on to begin with. I mean, like it is, it's a really interesting relationship, and it's, I think aspects of it have been accelerated because of some of that more fantastical stuff. But it is still, two people that trust each other, but have had moments of conflict and are figuring out how to kind of get past that. It's definitely going to be a kind of a prevailing thought. Like I said, I don't want to get into too much, but I think chapter two is a really good look into Oscar. And, I think what he says is really powerful, and that is that it's not about him being back. It's about Oscar being Oscar, and I think that's kind of something we're going to continue to explore and kind of poke at.
Do you feel also the same with Penny, because now she has become more like I guess you can say that she has human traits despite being a android or robot, what have you, and now she has this responsibility that with this new power she has attained for herself. Like, is that going to somehow give her like a different perspective of like who she is and what her purpose is?
For sure. I mean, all of our characters are like we talked about earlier, definitely growing and learning. And, Penny is, part robot, but she's part human. And, I think, some of the stuff we were talking about earlier in terms of, figuring out exactly what, your path is and how you are kind of interpreting what is going on. I think we even see that in chapter 1 with her, like, okay, here's the plan. Or she's volunteering, Pitch are shutting her down, but she's kind of pushing back now. And I think that kind of is going to continue to play into some things with her, some things with Winter, just in terms of, them coming to terms with, this is what I'm being asked to do. Is it exactly what I'm going to do? And in some cases it is, in some cases it isn't. But it's because, they're all of our characters are growing and really trying to learn, well, what do I believe in? What do I feel about these situations, and how am I going to act? So there's a couple of themes like that that I think are going to pertain to a lot of characters this year.
I know we're kind of in an interesting time right now where
you say that.
Like like with production and all that, but has that changed, or has it kind of stayed the same with you guys when you guys were working on Volume 8? And I don't know if you guys already gotten to finish it or not, but like, has that changed that at all?
Sure. So I mean, we are still working on Volume 8, and we're also working on Volume 9. It just kind of depends on what phase of the production or what part of the pipeline. I would say that it would be incorrect to say that it hasn't changed. I think in some ways it's changed in larger ways, and in some ways it's changed in less meaningful ways. But as an example, like our VO process, what Lindsay was talking about earlier, where what's been special about this has been our ability to, we're not dubbing something, we're not like we are able to ad-lib in the booth, we're able to play around, we're able to try some things out, and that hasn't changed. But it's no longer me on the other side of a piece of glass. It's me on a screen talking to Lindsay and our other actors and actresses that we record locally. If we record somebody not in Austin, nothing is different really. But I mean, Lindsay, let me know how you feel. Like, it has changed things. I don't think in a way that has broken anything, but it certainly has kind of added like another step or another barrier to a lot of that stuff.
Weird, because I mean, Kerry knows most of my time spent at Rooster Teeth is with Achievement Hunter, so like this usually is my day-to-day. So now in a weird way, RWBY has become more like Achievement Hunter in the process of recording, where I just like video chat with people and I go, hey, all right, let's record. But I mean, the spirit's still there, the soul's still there, and that's all that really matters. So it just sounds like such a RWBY thing to say. Like I'm pretty sure she said that to Penny at one point. But, right, yeah. I don't know. And again, I think that's a fantastic testament, is that when you do get into the booth, it doesn't feel any different, to me at least. I would still love to work up toward a group recording in some setting. I know we've talked about that as like a long-term stretch goal in the future. So maybe once COVID is over, we could look into that.
No, for sure. I mean, it's yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of, safety stuff going on so that we can get, one person in the booth and then one person in another room that doesn't actually interact with them, physically, like recording. We're able to do mocap with, one person and a bunch of people remoting in. And then, in every other case, it's just it's been slowing things down a little bit, some areas more than others. And that's why, our premiere was, a little bit later than it has been in the past. But we're really trying to find that balance of, making sure everybody's working on the show, their quality of life remains great, making sure that the show is still great and as great as it can be, and making sure that, we're not delaying too much in any area. So it's been, and Lindsay, I think you mentioned this earlier too, like it's been, the fans' reception to, like when we announced the slightly later start date, I didn't really see any any negatives. I mean, people understand this year's
anything the polar opposite. They're like, please, yes,
right,
like, take your time.
Yeah, I think everybody agrees, and I mean, I feel this way about media I consume personally. I would rather people just take their time and just make it right. I can wait another month, so it's been people have been very kind about that, and I appreciate it. Because we just want to make a good show, and not neglect that. Like I said, like things are different, and there's no way to get around that. But they don't have to be bad necessarily, at least production wise.
And you guys are still doing a great job. Volume 8 still, it looks amazing. If you guys want to talk a bit about like what can we expect for the rest of the season, like without being too spoilery.
Without spoiling anything, Kerry definitely talked about separation. That is a part of it. I keep saying spectacle, because reading what I've read in the script, I feel like anytime I read the scene descriptions, obviously I'm a huge fan of the dialogue. I personally love it. But when I read the scene descriptions, I'm like, oh, that's happening. And then this blew up and oh my God, and they're fighting. And like, I get really into it. And to see that come to fruition animation wise is a whole different story. That translation is beautiful. And those animators are wizards. So I say it all the time too in interviews, but if anyone is reading or listening, please send them love on social media. They would love to see it. A lot of times people in their field don't get the credit they deserve, and they deserve all the kudos. So across the pipe, like everybody is doing an amazing job. My quick non-spoiler answer, I would say, is a lot is what to expect. Expect a lot. It's a very dense season is what I will say.
Amazing. And we all look forward to what's coming up with Volume 8. Hope you guys get a chance to watch the upcoming volume. It's already on their website. If you guys want, you guys can also share your social media for those who want to follow you guys.
Oh, sure. You can find me on most social media platforms at I am Lindsay Jones.
And I'm the same thing on pretty much everything, just my full name, Kerry Shawcross.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And good luck with everything that's been going on with you guys, especially with Volume 8. I cannot wait to see what's coming up with the rest of the characters this season.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And if you guys are listening, we'll also have this on the Geeking podcast. So thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thank y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Head over to allagesofgeek.com and don't forget to check out the playlists pinned in the comments.